Hi, I'm Andrew Frongello, and I'm going to be showing you guys a video series on how to make chocolate at home, your own artisan homemade chocolate. I hope you enjoy. Procurement. First part of making chocolate is getting beans. Where do I get my beans? I get them from www.chocolatealchemy.com. It's a great resource for learning about chocolate, and from there you can buy all the ingredients and materials you need. Inspection. Once you have your beans selected for your recipe, you need to hand select out the healthy beans from everything else. Bits of debris, broken beans, flats. I've heard horror stories of other people that have found rocks in their beans and sometimes even live ammunition. Roasting. You could take the raw beans and put them in an oven, but I use a Baimer coffee roaster. It doesn't get too hot, not too much over 300 degrees, and after about 15-20 minutes these beans are done. You know they're done when they start to pop. Cooling. These just came out of the roaster. I lay them out on the table. I may even run a fan over those just to cool them down. You can see some of these guys are cracked. That's the ones that have popped, and you may even hear them wrinkling a little bit. Okay, once the beans are roasted and cooled, we have to separate the good inside part of the bean called the nib from the outside waste product part of the bean called the husk. So if we take this bean here and I demonstrate, crush it in between our fingers, you can see there's two distinct parts. There's the nib, which is the good part, and the husk. This process can be done by hand, but it takes a long time. Alright, so separating husk from nib by hand takes forever. This is my winnowing device. It has a vacuum that introduces an airflow into the PVC section on the left. And what that does for you, you start with beans in the hopper. They are crushed in the steel rollers powered by that drill. The crushed material falls down this chamber, hits the airflow, and the lighter husk gets sucked away into the separating chamber on the right, and the heavier nib falls into the bucket on the left. I have a valve to adjust the airflow. I have a cyclonic separator to make sure that most of my waste material goes into the bucket and doesn't clog up my shop vac. And an extra little piece that I built off to the right is an additional unit so that I can take the crushed material and pass it back through my system if I want to re-winnow it to kind of get a finer separation. Okay, so after a couple passes through the winnower, we have pretty much all husk on one side and all nib on the other. Alright, chocolate in its simplest form is just ground up cocoa nibs. Typically you're going to add some other ingredients, but the important thing is that when making chocolate, all the ingredients are by weight. So to start, we're going to figure out what our weight is of cocoa nibs. Formulation. Once you know the weight of your cocoa nibs, you can calculate out the weight of your other ingredients based on your recipe. All my recipes are based on percentage weights. An absolutely necessary piece of equipment for making chocolate is a melanger. It has two stone wheels that roll along a stone base, and this crushes all the ingredients down to a very small particle size, making the chocolate nice and smooth. An option with dealing with nibs is using a Champion food grinder or juicer. This will take cocoa nibs and turn them directly into cocoa liqueur. So using the Champion juicer, you actually lose some material in the components of the juicer, and it's one hell of a mess. My preferred method is to take cocoa nibs, warm them gently with a hot air gun, and put them into a warm melanger, again warmed with a hot air gun, and if you add them slowly, it'll convert the nibs into a fine cocoa liqueur. So warming up small batches of nibs. I'm then I take those warm nibs and add them into the melanger, nice and easy. A little bit at a time. And as long as they're warm, they should eventually turn to liqueur. Okay, so to my melanger, I'm adding some melted cocoa butter, and this is a mixture of a pinch of salt, milk, sugar, some heavy cream powder, and some sunflower lecithin. Just added all my ingredients, and as you can see, it's a little grainy, but we're gonna let this thing run for a couple days and we'll come back and check it out. Okay, so this is after 2 days of running in the melanger, and you can see the chocolate is smooth and shiny. So the melanger or chocolate refiner, they're also called wet grinders. You can find them on Amazon. The wet grinders are cheaper. It's the exact same equipment. It just doesn't say chocolate on it. This piece of equipment will grind the nibs. It'll refine the chocolate into a smooth texture, and it also does something called conching, which is mixing the chocolate over an extended period of time with some heat to drive off volatile chemicals, acidic flavors, and to just aerate the chocolate and introduce a little bit of caramelization. Makes a delicious chocolate. Tempering. Chocolate is not like water. It does not have one solid state and one melted state. Chocolate can form into a number of different types of crystals when it's hardening. And the whole goal of tempering is to encourage the chocolate to form into the preferable higher crystal types. The higher crystal types have a smoother mouthfeel, a sharper snap to the chocolate. The chocolate is nice and hard. The undesirable types will be crumbly, really won't set up properly, and just are not smooth. So the general approach, you have to heat up the chocolate, and then cool the chocolate, and then reheat the chocolate. There are a couple of different ways to do this. The most traditional approach is cooling the chocolate on a marble slab, and that's what I'm going to be doing. I encourage you guys to do some research if you're actually going into chocolate making and want to learn more about tempering. I've done about 20 batches of chocolate, and I am still experimenting with tempering, but it's a very necessary process to finish your chocolate before molding. Okay, so I am preparing for tempering and molding. The equipment I use, I always have a computer nearby. A lot of math goes into making chocolate. I have high quality polycarbonate molds. I have some almonds that I've roasted myself, 350 degrees for 10 minutes in the oven. Plenty of napkins. It is almost like an atomic reaction. As soon as you get chocolate somewhere, the mess is going to spread, so keep your area clean. Over here I have a spatula. I have a palette knife that I bought online from a French company for about 60 bucks. And then I have a paint scraper that I got from Home Depot for about 3 bucks. They both work equally good. I have my laser temperature reader. I have a hot air gun just in case I need some heat. I have my marble slab, and I have my melanger again. This time the melanger is going to be used for mixing. Okay, so tempering. The chocolate has been in the melanger, and just from the friction of the wheels, the temperature of the chocolate is about 106 degrees, maybe a little higher, 108 degrees, 110 degrees. So here's what we want to do. We want to put some chocolate on the marble, cool it down to about 80 degrees, and then take that seed chocolate and put it back in the melanger and mix it up. The critical temperature on the high side is going to be 93 degrees. At 93 degrees, everything is going to be destroyed. So we maybe want to cool down this chocolate a little bit before we temper it on the marble, so when we add the cool chocolate back into this vessel, the average temperature is below 93 degrees. 79 degrees, that's good. I'm going back in the melanger. Okay, so one of the cool things about properly tempered chocolate is the chocolate actually shrinks just a bit when it's sitting in the mold as it's forming the type 5s. So the bars should come out of the molds very easily once they've had a chance to cool. There you go. 3 bars of chocolate. So what I typically do is I wrap them in foil paper. That's my own personal code to know the percentage, what's inside, the almonds, and the date. I'll wrap them in the foil paper. Usually I'll stop there, but if it's for somebody's birthday or for a special occasion, I do print up special packaging, you know, right off my computer. I build these in Photoshop. So there you have it. Chocolate.